So one unfortunate thing about success is that the more high profile you get and the more successful you are, more people will come out of the woodwork to attack you because they think you have money. They know you have money. You have to protect yourself with LLCs. I personally tend to get very righteous when it comes to the law, and I will not settle when someone comes after me. LLCs have been used forever to protect people, but most people don't use them correctly, which completely defeats the purpose of it. You must not do business in your own name. You have to use LLCs to protect yourself legally. It's so important that you use LLCs correctly and that you follow the rules of them so that someone can't pierce the corporate veil and you don't expose yourself to any sort of liability when you're doing any sort of business. I'm Megan Epstein, a real estate developer, a wife, and a mother of 4. I've completed 10 different commercial development projects ranging in size from 10 million to 100 million. On this channel, I tell you all about the journey and the lessons I've learned along the way. So if you don't get an LLC set up and you don't follow the rules of it properly, then someone can come after your actual personal assets. It's the reason it's called a limited liability company. That's what LLC stands for. So if you want to create an LLC, the very first thing that you have to realize is that each project has its own LLC. So if you're buying a real estate deal, you do not buy more than one deal in an LLC. Each deal has its own LLC because if something goes wrong on one deal, then they can take or cross-collateralize another project, basically. So each project or venture has to have its own LLC. I've seen very sophisticated investors still hold multiple assets in one LLC, and it's a huge mistake. A lot of times for our investors, we've spent a lot of money legally structuring projects correctly for advantageous legal protection as well as tax protection. And it's something that's really important to do for your investors if you want people to write big checks for you. So another aspect of having LLCs is that you can never, ever transfer money. If you transfer money between them, it's very sloppy and is considered commingling funds. That's another very common mistake I see with people, even if they have a lot of money, just being sloppy with accounting, paying a bill out of one company that's for a different company or property, and that legally gives you grounds to basically be able to attack or pierce that corporate veil between LLCs. So it's very, very important that you don't transfer money between two companies or projects. Depending on how many LLCs you have or how advanced you want your legal structure to get, the last thing I'd recommend is a very basic, is to have a trust own your LLCs. In a lot of states, you can't see who the owner of a trust is. So having a trust own your LLCs will give you that extra layer of anonymity that you need the more successful you become and the more money you have. So I've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on layers and layers and many, many attorneys. I have round-tripped over 20 commercial real estate projects from start to finish, and I believe we manage anywhere from 80 to 100 LLCs at a time within my company. So I've become very, very familiar with the rules of LLCs. The unfortunate thing about the legal system is that even if you're 100% right and the other person's 100% wrong, lawsuits don't work like that. And a lot of times they get settled earlier because people don't want to spend the legal bills. They don't have the luxury of spending the legal bills. So a lot of times, even if someone's 100% right, they will end up paying or settling because they don't want to go through the legal process and pay the expense of all the legal bills that it takes to do so. I personally, out of principle, don't settle because I'm not going to open myself up to people coming at me for a bunch of, bullshit because they're trying to get money from me unjustly. So I don't settle, but it is because I'm structured very well legally. And I've learned these lessons over the years that you really need to, at least in the very basic, take advantage of LLCs to protect yourself. I'm not giving legal advice, but I hope that was helpful. And if you want to know more about my real estate tips, you can watch this next video.